Hi, my name is Gift Constable. In this little video, I'm going to share a 5-point rubric for product leaders thinking about the financial impact of the product work that you're doing. Now, by product leaders, I mean anyone who's either leading a product team, you could be a product manager, a designer, an engineer, or someone who's in a product leadership capacity overlooking an organization. Right? We're always trying to connect our work to the finances of the business. And so here are these 5 things to mentally step through for any major project that you're working through. And if you're a leader of an organization, you want to think through this for your portfolio of work. So let's dive right in. I'm going to share my screen and we'll talk about a few of these items. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that not every project is going to actually connect to all 5 of these things, right? Some are going to connect to a few of them, but not to all of them. So just keep them in mind. Let's begin with the most obvious one. That's revenue. Most of our work, most of the product work that we do is tied to this particular one. We're trying to bring more money in the door, or we are trying to protect the money, i.e. protect, help churn, help retention that we currently have coming in the door. So the thing you have to think through is, does my project connect to revenue? How does it do it? Right? And how much are we talking about over what period of time? This is the first one. The second one, no surprise, is profitability. All right, so the first one was about top line. The next one is, are you connecting to the middle or the bottom line? The answer may be yes, the answer may be no, right? The key thing for profitability is to think through, am I impacting the gross margin of the business, which is the cost to create and run the product that I have, or is it my operating margin, which is all the other parts of the business and most of the R&D work that we do, the product development work that we do, the sales and marketing costs that we do, all the administrative costs to run a business that falls down on the operating profit, right? If you have any questions about your project and which one it fits into, talk to someone in finance and have them help you understand how your business calculates gross versus operating profit. So if you're working on a project that's all about bringing new customers in the door, you're tied to revenue, right? If you're working on a project that's about making your cloud hosting costs lower, that's largely connected to gross margin. Let's say you're working on a project which is about increasing software developer productivity. Well, that's largely going to be tied to your operating profit. So think through whether you connect to the top line, think through whether you connect to the middle or the bottom line. The next one is return on investment. ROI. Now, there's a few different ways to calculate return on investment. Here's a method that I like to use, which is you take a period of time that your product is going to run, not in perpetuity. We can't think out that far, but you're probably going to want to think through maybe 2 years or 3 years for a lot of the projects you take on. Again, you think through what makes sense for your context, right? So then you want to calculate, what are the returns that I'm going to get? This could be revenue coming in the door. This could be savings that you're bringing to the business over a period of time, but you're generating returns to the business in some form. From that, you want to subtract the cost to run it. So the returns over, let's say you do 2 years, a 2-year project. The returns you're going to get over those 2 years minus the cost to run it for those 2 years. And that's both, from my point of view, it's both the cost to host the thing, like your AWS or Azure bills, but also the teams that it takes to maintain and run this. If you have a dedicated team on this feature that you've built or this software development effort that you made, the cost of that team should be factored into the cost to run it. If you're just allocating 10% of a team, put that cost in there. So you get your returns over, say, our 2 years, for example, our costs to run it over the 2 years. And then from that subtraction, you divide that by the cost to build it, your initial cost to build it. If you take this approach, essentially a 1x ROI is break even. If it's lower than that, then you're actually not positive. You're losing money on the project. If it's over, then you're gaining money on the project. A different way that a lot of people do this is they'll actually take the cost of to build and put that up in the numerator, right? In which case, if you're negative, if you're below 0, then you have a negative ROI. And if you're above 0, then it's a positive ROI. Doesn't matter which way you do it. This is just the way that I like to approach it. But the key thing is to think through your time frame and make sure that you're accounting for the cost to maintain it, not just to host it, and not just blindly thinking about the returns. Okay? So that's ROI. But you can't just think about ROI. That's not enough. And so that leads us to our fourth element of the rubric, which is magnitude. What do I mean by magnitude? I mean, what percentage of the business is this thing? Does it move the needle or not? To visualize this, let's say our business has this gray bar worth of revenue, and we have two projects, project here on the left, project on the right, right? Our revenue is the same for both. That's our current revenue of the business. Right on the left, we have this project that delivers a little bit of revenue. It's a small sliver. On the right, we have a project that's delivering much more as a proportion relative to our current revenue. It's going to be a higher percentage, right? A higher growth rate. So you want to be taking this into account. Some teams get too naive and they just think through ROI. Is this thing ROI positive? Well, let's say the one on the left is extraordinarily ROI positive. Maybe it's like a 4x return, and the one on the right is only a 1.5x return. You still need to ask yourself, is the one on the left worth doing? Do we care? Does it bring enough? Does it move the needle enough to make it worth even bothering with? All right. Maybe yes, maybe no, but you need to think through it. So don't forget magnitude when you're thinking about ROI and what a project is bringing. Does this move the needle at the level that we care about? And every business is going to have a different context for how much matters. Okay. So you got to think through your own context. Remember, what I'm talking about is all on the financial side of things. So I'm not talking about how much risk is on the project here. I'm not talking about the strategic impact of the project. Those are important things to consider as well for prioritization. But in terms of the financial impact, these are the things. And this leads me vastly to the final step of the rubric, which is business value. And this is newer and a little harder for some product folks to wrap their head around. But the long and the short of it is that every business, the boards of every business, what they're primarily trying to do is they are trying to grow or protect the value of the business, right? You want your business to be worth more as time goes on, not less. You certainly want it to not go backwards, right? So that's a big part of what the board is thinking about. And different companies get valued in different ways. And sometimes it's about what stage they're in or where they are sort of in their lifespan. So, and it also depends on who's trying to value the business and who's interested in investing or buying in the business as to what they care about. So there's a lot of complexity here, and the what you really want to do to cut through that complexity is talk to, the CEO knows this, the CFO knows this. If you have a sophisticated chief product officer, they should know this as well, right? Some businesses, like the growth rate of the business is what's driving business value. And if you're not connected to pushing growth rate, you're really not connected to driving business value. For some other businesses, it's much more about the sustainability and predictability of the revenue. For others, it's about that gross margin and bottom line, right? And so you want to think through, for us, how are we being judged? How are we being valued? What's important for us right now? How are we trying to grow or protect our value? So you want to ask that question. That will bring a strategic financial lens to how you're thinking about your project. So we've got our 5 pieces, right? Remember, not every project is going to check all 5 of these, but you want to think through, do I impact revenue? How and how much? Do I impact profitability? How and how much? What is the return on investment of this project? What is the magnitude, the relative magnitude of this? Is it worth doing? And then lastly, how does it connect to business value? So there's your 5-step rubric, right? These little checklists are really useful to not forget. You want to do this for any major project that you're doing. And as I said, as a product leader, you want to be thinking about these 5 things across your portfolio, right? You may have different projects going on within your portfolio of work that are doing different jobs here, that are impacting different elements, and just make sure your balance is right and aligned with the CEO and aligned with the board. If you're interested in learning more about how finance and product connect, I have some classes that are coming up. Very soon, on June 11th, I have the next cohort of financial fluency for product leaders. This is the 5th cohort of this class. They keep on getting better. People have been really enjoying it. I'll share a QR code on the next screen and a little discount code too, if you're interested. And then in September, I'm starting a new cohort of product leadership and practice. This is a really fun class. It's limited to only 10 people. And I already have some people signed up for this. So if you're interested in it, I would apply. And so What this is we role play. There's up to 10 people in this class. Everyone plays the chief product officer. I play everyone else, and we role play difficult and very realistic scenarios that happen of a board member getting in your face, of a highly political C-suite colleague, of people that are reporting to you getting afraid because there's a possible restructuring happening, and or maybe you have to fire someone, right? So I'm going to play all those roles, and you play the CPO. We go through these things live, and then you get feedback. So if that sounds interesting to you, you can find that on Maven as well. It's product leadership in practice. For the financial fluency class, here's a QR code, FIN15, that code on the right will get you 15% off this next cohort if you sign up before it starts, which is up to June 10th. And I hope to see you when you join. That's the end of this little video. I'll probably post something, a little one of my product op-eds that I'm doing every week. Dave Lifson gave me a fun idea for one this week, so I'll be posting that to YouTube and to LinkedIn as well. Thanks for joining me. Signing off.